My name is Ernest Williams. I'm a research associate in the lab of Allen Place. I've been here since 2007, coming from Johns Hopkins, and I started my PhD research in 2016. So for my thesis research, I'm studying how a group of harmful algae synthesize their toxins, both so that we can have strategies to remediate the toxic blooms that occur in the environment, as well as to understand how these chemicals are made that we haven't been able to synthesize in the lab for potential therapeutic uses. The major cause of harmful algal blooms is from excess nutrients in the environment. There are two major sources. Baltimore is a great place to study this because we have both of them nearby. One is obviously urban pollution, right? The large communities that live here, the waste that they produce goes into the water, and this causes harmful blooms in the Chesapeake Bay or in the coastal environments. But there's also a lot of agriculture in various parts of the state of Maryland. And although the practices of the farmers have greatly improved and farmers take their role as stewards of the land very seriously, the practices of 30 years ago, 50 years ago are still in the environment with these excess nutrients, and we're seeing the effects of that today, and it's unlikely that they're going to go away anytime soon, basically. Harmful algal blooms directly impact the environment, both because they clog waterways, they can change the dynamic of the food web and select for organisms that you also don't want on top of the harmful algae, but many of them also produce toxic chemicals, and that can impact the animals and plants living there, directly, sometimes fatally. They can cause disease in humans, hospitalizations, and sometimes death. And so remediation is something that we're really looking into so that we can kind of have a solution to take care of the problem as it's happening, because it happens so quickly. When we think about harmful algal blooms here, we're talking about a huge and vitally important system that is the Chesapeake Bay and all the rivers and streams that feed into it. So the number of lives that are affected potentially by harmful algal blooms in the area is huge. There's a human impact, there's a health impact, there's an environmental impact, there's an economic impact.
Already, Ernest and his colleagues in the Place Lab have made a difference for people by using their science to combat harmful algal blooms.
The Girl Scout camp is at Lake Williston in Denton. The camp itself is called Camp Todd. There was a series of incidents where there were harmful algal blooms there that were impacting the health of the campers, sometimes seriously. And so the Maryland Department of the Environment came in and started testing the water and found that there were levels of toxins in the water that were way too high, that they were dangerous, and they were threatening to close down the camp. This took a couple of years, and we had a lot of very fortunate events, but we were able to clean things up in the lake. There were multiple approaches that we had to take. The first was to figure out why the bloom was happening. And unfortunately, this was because of legacy farm practices that caused a lot of nutrients to be in the groundwater and in the soil. So this is not something that could be taken care of. Once we figured this out, that reducing nutrients wasn't an option. So we got into a routine of flushing out the lake every winter and then placing the barley straw bales to prevent them from coming back in the summer. And this kind of two-prong approach had a really big effect on reducing the number of algae. They're still there. They're just not able to take over. What we were able to learn from this is that these chemical treatments were really effective. And we were also able to get an idea of how these chemicals are affecting the algae and what they are. When we first started this project, the lake was completely unusable. The Girl Scouts were getting sick, and this was really devastating to the community. And then afterwards, there was a great article in the local newspaper showing girls kayaking in the lake and having a great time and splashing in the water, and it was almost like it had never happened. So the impact on the community was really incredible because the people had been using this lake for generations, and it was getting to the point where it was just going to be cordoned off and no one could use it at all. So the ability to bring this back to the community and have the Girl Scouts use it again, everybody was, just ecstatic.